Welcome to another edition of Community Conversations. Thank you for joining us. I'm Frederick County Executive Jan Gardner, and joining me today is Linda Shea, who's the Director of Animal Control. So thank you for joining me today, Linda.
Glad to be here.
Well, congratulations on being appointed the Director of the Division.
Thank you. Thank you.
You worked at Animal Control for a number of years, and so do you want to let our viewing audience know a little bit about you and your background, your interest in animals, where else you've worked?
How did I get here? I've worked here with the county since 2005. Worked my way up the ladder. Started out as a vet tech, got promoted to kennel manager, eventually humane educator, went back to kennel manager, and now division director. So I've enjoyed the position, I've enjoyed the challenges, I've enjoyed serving the county for the last 10 years.
Okay. So what is the mission of Animal Control, and what do you think the most interesting details are that you might want to share with the public?
Sure. I think a lot of times the public doesn't understand how much we serve and what we provide. Primarily, we're the only animal shelter in Frederick County. We house homeless animals. We seek to find them homes. We enforce the animal laws. The humane law enforcement component is a big part of what we do. We also serve the public by educating, and I think in a lot of capacities, whether it's humane law enforcement, whether it's folks looking for a pet, whether it's people that have lost animals, people that might live in a neighborhood not familiar with the ordinances that are around, that's what our job is, to educate them, and certainly that's a big part of what we do.
Okay. Now, because you have animal control, you do have an occasion to work with animals that aren't traditional pets like cats and dogs. So sometimes you work with issues that relate to farm animals. So the breadth of your job is quite amazing.
It's very diverse. We have some farm animals that come in. We've had goats, we've had pot-bellied pigs. Right now we have 2 chickens that are looking for a home. We're open admission. So what open admission means is that we take any animal that arrives in Frederick County, either as a stray or from somebody who owns it in Frederick County, that needs us, despite what their temperament might be, despite their health, and despite species. So we've had snakes, we've had rodents, we've had birds right now, but primarily dogs and cats.
Okay. So do you ever have an exotic animal that you need to find a special place for, like a zoo?
Sure. We've had emu. Those are probably the most exotic I've come across, and we've found a place for them. We've also had, in my tenure there, an alligator that somebody thought would be a really neat pet to bring home from Florida, and he got to be about 6 inches long and did some damage. So he's living his life out in a protected environment.
Okay. If people want to visit Animal Control, can you talk a little bit about what's involved with adopting a pet?
Sure. It's not complicated. What we encourage people to do is actually visit the shelter. We're on Rosemont Avenue. We've got very convenient hours. We're open 6 days a week, including Saturdays. So you want to stop in, you want to check in at the front desk, you might want to share what you're looking for, and then we would send you back to our adoption areas. Every animal has a little cage card. It's got basic information, their age, their species, how they got there, whether it's stray or owned. Any information we have on an animal, we share. We do have a contracted part-time vet, so if an animal needs an exam, they get that. We provide a lot of preventatives. I don't think people are aware. We do vaccines, flea and tick prevention, deworming. Prior to leaving the shelter, the dogs, cats, and bunnies are all spayed and neutered. So that's our contribution to reducing the number of unwanted animals. So we do that. And usually it's a 2 to 3 day process. You would find an animal you're interested in, fill out an application. We set up an educational interview, and it's your opportunity as a potential adopter to ask us questions about the animal, and our opportunity to share with you what we know about that animal.
Now, you do want the whole family to come in or be agreeable on the animal that they're about to adopt. Can you explain why you want everyone in the household to be aware and be involved?
Sure, absolutely. We do make exceptions because we understand that people are deployed or have long-distance jobs and situations may not allow for that. The primary reason, we want to make sure that nobody is surprised. If you are going to adopt a toy poodle, we don't want you adopting a toy poodle and your family expects a mastiff or a cat. that would be a problem. We also want to make sure that if there's any allergies or potential allergies, if your child has never been exposed to animals prior, that would be a concern. So we just want to make sure that the whole family has a chance to look at the animal they're thinking about, to interact with it, to get some more insight, make sure it's a good fit.
Can you tell us how many animals are at the shelter at any given time or come through during a year, and how many are adopted?
Sure, sure. When I first started in 2005, we had 6,410 animals total that came into the shelter that year. Last year we had 4,900. So the number is down, and that's a good number. The fewer animals means that people are spaying and neutering their pets. We're doing our job as far as having animals spayed and neutered before they leave the shelter. So the total number right now is about just a little over 4,000 that we've seen since the beginning of the fiscal year. On average, this time of year, it's about 225 animals total. Now, many of those are in foster care. So we have underage kittens that come to us a couple of days old, a few weeks old. They might come with or without a mom, so they're sent either into foster care. We work with rescue organizations as well, so if we don't have the capacity to care for them in the shelter, we send them out. We do the best we can to place everybody appropriately.
So you have a lot of organizations that you work with and a lot of volunteers. So what kind of role do volunteers play, and how could somebody get involved if they wanted to?
That's a good question. We have a lot of volunteers. Volunteers can do anything that shelter staff can do as long as they're trained. There is an application they fill out. There's a basic overall orientation. It's about an hour. You get a tour of the shelter, and our volunteer coordinator, Sean Snyder, goes over that and kind of describes what the shelter does, our purpose in the community. And then after that, he'll meet with volunteers one-on-one to kind of decide what they would prefer to do, what they'd rather not do, and then get them started there. But we have about 250 overall volunteers. We have about 20 volunteers that are core. Those are the people that are in regular days on a routine basis.
Okay, so they're there helping you do everything.
Everything,
cleaning the cages and walking animals, interviewing people who want to adopt.
Customer service is a big part of that. Yep, answering questions the right way with the right information.
Very good. Now, what do you do to try to connect pets to people?
A lot of times it's interacting with the people and asking their experience. So if you were to come in for a pet, are you looking for a dog, a cat? Do you even know? What's your lifestyle like? Do you commute? Do you have any concerns about your house getting messy? Do you have any concerns with allergies? Do you have resources as far as time to train a puppy? So there's a lot of questions, a lot of interacting serves best as far as making a good choice.
But you do put pictures of available pets in the newspaper.
We do.
And you do advertise on the county government channel as well. And so I know you try to advertise and promote pet adoption and available pets.
Absolutely.
And some of the rescue organizations also help with that, don't they?
Oh, they do. I think the last 2 years we've seen a tremendous increase in our rapport with rescues and how they're able to help us. This time of year is what we call kitten season. So we've got probably 20 underage kittens at the moment seeking a place to be. So rescues help us with that. They'll come in, they'll take pictures, we give them the vital information, and they share that, looking for foster homes for them.
Okay. And if you had one message you wanted to tell pet owners, what would that be?
I would say to please consider the shelter as a resource. We may not be able to spay and neuter your pet, but we have a lot of information on how that can happen. If you're struggling financially, we have resources we can point you to. If you can't feed your pet, we have a pet food bank. So I think we are more of a resource than a lot of people realize.
Okay, that's good to know. So, and if people have a concern about a neighbor animal running at large or somebody not treating an animal well, they can call animal control as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
And someone will come out and respond and investigate that situation.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think it's very important for people to be responsible pet owners and to spay and neuter their pets. And I know a lot of people are using chips so that if their dog or cat is lost, that they can be identified. And certainly if you have an animal that comes into the shelter, you do check to make sure that they have a chip that you try to locate
Exactly.
their owner.
We scan a couple of times. We scan at intake, we scan at a vet exam, we scan before they leave the shelter. Prior to leaving, all of our dogs and cats are microchipped if they're not already, and part of that is the adoption process. We not only implant, but we register that information. We also hold microchip rabies license clinics a couple of times a year, and that's very low cost. So for microchipping, it's $15 to register and implant.
Okay, so you'll do that on site that day.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. I know you have an advisory committee as well. How often do they meet? That's another way for the public to provide information, input, ask questions.
Absolutely. It's the Companion Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. They meet quarterly.
Okay.
And they're citizens, they're volunteers within Frederick County, and they make sure that animal welfare needs are being attended to properly within the county. So they meet at the shelter. I'm part of that. We share our statistics. We share with that committee what's going on at the shelter, and in turn they kind of help us make sure that the public knows what we're doing.
So when is their meeting?
I believe it's every second Monday of the month, 7 o'clock at the shelter, but that's on our website.
Okay, so they can find out the information they know that they need to know if they were interested in coming to a meeting and providing some input, or they have questions they need to ask.
Sure.
They can come to that and they can look at your webpage to find out. And your hours of operation?
We are there Monday through Saturday. We're open to the public. Of course, we're there 7 days a week to take care of the animals. But Monday, Tuesday, Friday, we're there open to the public from 10 to 5. Wednesday and Thursday from 10 to 8. And then Saturday from 10 until 4.
Okay. So there's convenient hours for everyone.
Yep.
Whether they're, even if you're working outside the county, you can still come in on a couple evenings a week or on Saturday.
Exactly.
So, all right, well, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for being here.
I appreciate you being here and sharing some information about animal control.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Community Conversations. I hope you learned a little bit about animal control. They're more than just a shelter. They do provide a lot of services to our community, and you can find out more about them by checking us out on the web.